In today's STEMinar, we are joined by Daniel Roizman of UME Academy. Daniel worked in film, animation, and video games for over 25 years, leading teams of talented artists and engineers on films such as X-Men, The Matrix, and Harry Potter. He is keenly aware of the growing job market and skills needed to succeed in these inspiring industries. With two young sons at home, in 2015, Daniel, along with his business partner, Jean Mistro, took their expertise and started UME Academy, which is a STEM program that is provider-driven to engage and inspire students to be creators. So Daniel, tell viewers about UME Academy.
So UME which is you and me. It's all about being together learning, together having fun, experimenting. So it was founded in 2015 with my partner, Jean Mistro. We both have extensive backgrounds in film and video games, Matrix, X-Men, FIFA, Madden. We've worked on all of these giant things. So we've had a blast in our careers over the past 25 years. And, we saw this huge demand for technology for content creators, right? And just the opportunities for jobs in this industry were just growing at a phenomenal rate. And so, we wanted to think about how could we help in that area. We both have backgrounds in education, teaching engineers how to create art, teaching artists how to engineer. Because, with technology, you're always doing both, you're problem solving. And, we decided to work with young kids because I had young kids at the time. So what better to test our ideas on than with my own kids? And, we wanted to really focus on kids experimenting, kids being resilient with failure, right? That which is so critical and which is what technology really allows you to do. It lets you try things, experiment quickly, and it lets you move at the speed of your thoughts, which I think is very different, right? It's a challenge that educators have right now because kids are used to their iPads and things they can tap on and they get feedback immediately. And then you sit in a classroom with a pencil and I could see with my own kids how challenging it was just to stay focused. So using technology as a tool, not only for STEM, right, to understand math and science and physics, but just as an interface, it let kids be much more engaged in what they were doing, and and it just seemed more natural to them, given that the digital world that they're growing up in. So, we started UME Academy to do that. We knew that video games were what kids were really into, they loved, and video games really let kids explore all of the sides of their brain, right? They can be the artist, they can be the level designer, they could be the engineer solving complex challenges, or the musician creating sound effects and musical scores. So, it didn't matter where you were coming from, you found a place for yourself inside of video games. And, so that's why we kind of focused with UME Academy on teaching kids how to be video game designers.
In thinking of everything that you just said, Daniel, what makes UME Academy different from the hundreds of tech organizations and resources available? And you mentioned part of this, but what inspired the video game design and coding as a part of your programmatic content?
I think there's a couple of words that we like to use, accessibility and engagement. There are lots of amazing programs out there and qualified instructors who get kids engaged, and it's fantastic. But what we saw firsthand, because UME, we started off in 2015 on the ground. We were in schools, we were in community centers. We were teaching kids face to face because that's how we were going to learn what the challenges were. And what we saw was just working with technology to get started was so hard to do. You had to have your computer configured with the right software. You had to download the right software, find the right project files, make sure you had the permissions set up. All of these technical things, which, even for professionals, you have IT departments dedicated to this. It's really hard to do. And if you start thinking about doing that at scale with a classroom of kids, I mean, that's really too much. It's unfair for teachers to have that onus on them because they're not IT experts, right? And 30 kids will find 30 different configuration problems. So we solve that in person by providing our own equipment. We bring our own equipment into the classroom. And that way we could guarantee that there was a level playing field, that the base was there, that the kids were just ready to start learning and doing the activity. And so when we moved online, we had to build out an entire system. I mean, we built our own communication system, but we also built an infrastructure in the cloud. So when kids come in, it doesn't matter where they are in the world. As long as they're coming in with a web browser and they have an internet connection, we stream all of the tech through the browser. So we're streaming complex software on very advanced computers that are running in the cloud, but the kids just have the most basic layer of technology at home. And so that makes it accessible. So it makes it accessible in schools and classrooms that only have Chromebooks, or maybe even have like 5 or 10-year-old computer labs, which we've seen a lot of those, but it also makes it accessible at home. So you don't have to have a MacBook Pro or some advanced computer system with graphics cards and all these things, that certain demographics and people in our community don't have access to. So we really lowered the bar on accessibility to create the widest audience. And I think, that coupled with video game design in a group of students really makes us unique in our offering.
And thinking about this from an educator standpoint, I remember being in the classroom and trying to teach 30 kids to download, the appropriate software for whatever lesson or whatever I was trying to show them. And so in thinking about that, I'm pretty tech savvy. However, I know a lot of teachers aren't. So how does UME Academy support educators and program providers from varying backgrounds and educational levels in their facilitation of your software?
So, we offer a variety of integrations with schools, right? Some schools just want to bring us in as, yeah, I'm a teacher, but I'm going to sit off in the corner. You come in and work with the kids, right? Which is fair, right? Teachers have a lot of things to do and work on and so on. So, sometimes we're doing that and they stay isolated, but we really love it when teachers want to be engaged with us. So yes, they can sit back and not have to worry about, the IT as long as they can get the kids logged in to their web browser. That's kind of at that point they step away. We actually have on our team a live tech support. So any student who is having some technical issues, they hit a button and a team member from UME is immediately chatting with them and working behind the scenes to help them with their technical problems. So we try and even pull that out from the teacher in the classroom. Then the next side is, because we bring a live facilitator, right? Our instructor is logged into the meeting with the kids, talking to the kids directly. They're taking care of the technical instruction, right? And because all the kids are connected to each other in this virtual classroom, they're answering each other's questions. So the teacher in the classroom is then able to step back and sort of start facilitating, right? They can walk around the classroom and say, hey, that's really interesting what you're doing. You should go show that person. Or, hey, kids, come around. Let's check out what this other student is doing. And, depending on the age level of the students, we'll work with the teachers to preload them with questions. So while we may be talking to the kids about how do I make my character jump higher, and we can talk about gravity and mass and forces, that teacher can then take that conversation and bring it back into their regular curriculum. Hey, remember when you were making that video game, how you balanced mass and force, right? Like it naturally lends itself into conversations in the classroom that are then meaningful and relevant to the students, right? If the more teachers can speak about video games, the more students are going to be able to respond and engage with them. So we help teachers sort of understand that language and reframe it in the class.
How has UME Academy navigated the transition from in-person to virtual learning environments during the COVID-19 pandemic, and during this time ensure that youth are able to gain vital 21st century skills?
I think it wasn't easy, but it let my partner and I really put on our favorite hats, which is like the engineer hat, right? How are we going to problem solve this? So when COVID shut down, for our business, it literally stopped, between one day and then an announcement, and that was it. The business was on hiatus, but it let us focus on really moving from all the things that we learned about working with kids in person into bringing it online. And so we had a chance to experiment with things like Zoom and Google Meet and Teams and try to teach with those tools and learn, what are we missing? What did we lose from being in person in a classroom? And all of the ways that you facilitate kids, the way that they engage with each other, the way they get up from their chairs to rush around someone's screen who's doing something cool because they're excited. What couldn't we do online? And when we started to realize that, the kids in Zoom and these other tools, they can't see what each other's doing. All they can do is look at each other's faces. we realized we had to build something. There was a real technology problem to solve. And so that was a huge motivator for us to take all of that learning of what happens in the classroom and create a platform that really recreated it in the cloud, and taking into account things like security and accessibility. Again, that word was so critical. So it let us move in a very clear and focused way, because we weren't even distracted by having to run live classes. So the team was really able to work hard on that, and I think we're proud of what we've created.
How can programs leverage UME Academy to increase family engagement?
I think there's some great examples how we're seeing families now using and interacting with our platform. And we'll often have a student at home. So let me just take a couple steps back. When we first went online again, with this platform, we were working with a private school. We had a couple of large classrooms, and they were in hybrid mode. Half the kids were at home. There was COVID scare, another group left to be at home, but they could still all be together in the platform at the same time. So we were able to to maintain that cohort, even though they were in different locations. What we see in a lot of our programs, when kids are working from home, they have siblings, usually younger ones, who are pestering, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And so you'll see the first few times, they're like, "Go away, I'm working on something." But then near the end of the class, when they've created their game and they're ready to showcase it, their little siblings are coming on and playing. And you can hear them explaining to their siblings how it works and what they did and what they created. And then the parents can come over and they're hearing the kids learn, because they hear the questions, they hear the instructor, but the whole family starts to get involved. So suddenly the kids they've got their siblings playing, they've got their parents playing, they're all engaged in this activity. And again, it's relevant and meaningful, which I think is so important to kids. Is like, I did something and you actually care. You understand what I did. And for parents, the typical, "What did you do today?" "Nothing." "What did you learn?" "Nothing." Like, "No, what did you do today?" "I made this game. Come play it." So, with, again, video games, it just brings all of that together in a fun way. And, with the STEM aspect of it, everything they do is building those skills for those jobs of the future that they need.
Video game design and technology are typically associated with boys. How do we engage girls in video game design and other technology-based activities to ensure long-term investments in STEM career fields?
Yeah, I think, what we see in classes, it's really interesting, especially at the younger ages, but even as they start to get older, is there's a real difference between the way boys and girls are thinking from week to week, month to month, whatever, but there's differences. And within video games and video game design, because it's so accessible to kids to come at it from wherever they're interested. So this week I'm a problem solver, this week I'm a storyteller. They're able to enter and move at a pace that makes sense to them, that's comfortable, and they can get the feedback. So sometimes we'll see in a class where we'll have 3 girls and 8 boys. The girls are kind of off to the side. They're building these great narrative-based stories, very well laid out, planned. They know where they're going. It makes sense. They're super engaged. They may even be playing music in the background. Like, they just set up their own environment that's comfortable for them. The boys, on the other hand, are putting in as many bombs and explosions as they can, and the game makes no sense, and it's just making sound effects, and it's crashing, and they're hooting and hollering. They love it. So you can see that the accessibility from come in where you are. What are you interested in? And I'll give you another example. We ran a game jam with some of the top students that we had. Right, so there were about 30 kids. We paired them up into teams of 3. And the first thing the kids had to do before they even got a computer was they had to draw. Here's kind of the level that we're going to make. We looked at it. We said, good, it's a good plan. Go. By the end of the game jam, the only teams who finished creating a game were the girls. The boys kept changing their plans and over again. And so how do you get girls to come into this and enter? And I think it needs to come through the schools. They need to get that first experience a little bit forced, right? If it's not coming naturally, if they're naturally intimidated, if they naturally think that it's a boys thing, or if their parents oftentimes think, oh, it's for boys. I mean, we've heard that from parents who are registering their girls. that, oh, this is probably for boys, she won't like it. Okay, so if we can get over that barrier and just get the girls into the system, it's phenomenal what happens, because they understand it, and they succeed in it, and they can tangibly, they can see the difference between what they're making and the other kids are making. So it's a great way to express themselves, and frankly, girls make better game designers. We know that there's a challenge for girls just to get into that classroom in the first place, because they may be intimidated. There's just going to be a bunch of boys screaming, and I want to be there. So to solve that, we've created girls only classes with a female-led instructor. Girls are coming in, and it really sets the pace and the tone that they're comfortable to come in and try it. And we're seeing that the girls who are entering that, they're staying with us long term, and continuing their development. So we're always looking for ways to lower that barrier of entry, to lower the risk, and we're super excited just to see what the girls are creating in our classes.
Want to see UME Academy in action? Well, stay tuned for a brief demonstration of UME Academy software.
Cool. So you're looking at our studio, UME Academy for Kids, and at the top of the screen, we've got some of these different tabs, and the first tab is kind of like the homeroom. And so in the homeroom, we'll greet the students in the classroom. We'll talk about classroom behavior, right? This is, again, something that you do in a regular classroom every time a new teacher comes in. At the bottom of the screen, we've got a couple of students attending. You are one of them, Jessica is the other. You can see that we're not using video. We're using avatars for the kids. And that's because, when you're creating video games, you don't need to see people's faces. And frankly, what we learned, both for privacy purposes and for stress, it brings it down when you're not on display all the time. But you can still interact with us by raising your hand. So Shanika, if you want to raise your hand, just click on your avatar.
Oh, okay, cool.
There you go. Cool. So you have a way of letting me know you need some attention. I've muted all the mics in here just because we're using Zoom, but normally the audio conversation takes place inside. So everyone in the class is pinned to the homeroom. So as a facilitator, I'm able to control what the students are seeing. And what we'll usually do is we'll start kids playing a video game. So I'm going to move you over to your game tab, and everybody's browser has now moved over to this game tab. You're going to play this game called Bombastic. You're going to play it by hitting the Enter key on your keyboard. Yeah. So all the kids now in the class are starting off by playing a video game. This game is a lot like Donkey Kong. They're going to have some fun playing it. And then when they're done playing, I'm going to move them over to look at my screen. Right, so that the kids, they played some video games, they were excited, they got some of those beans out. We, depending on their age level, we'll have a discussion. We'll analyze that game, talk about game mechanics and other kinds of things. So, we'll tune that discussion based on their grade level. Now I'm going to show you Unity. Unity is a software that's used by literally hundreds of thousands of game developers around the world. About 60% of all games are made with this. So you're going to learn the real tools, and it's all being streamed to you through the cloud. So you didn't have to install it on your computer. It's totally accessible. Very simply, what do we have here? We've got this game level with a character at the top. If I push this triangle to play the game's going to start. I'm going to push the Enter key, and left, right arrow, space bar to jump. So we've moved beyond playing games with our thumbs to playing games with our fingers. And that's digital literacy. That's literally, kids do not have experience working with two hands on a keyboard. It's terrible to see, but they have to learn that skill. Cool. So anytime we want to play our game, we push the play button. Over this game area, we've got a bunch of different platforms and some of these clouds. At the top left, I have my toolbar. This first tool is the Move tool. Now I'm going to click on one of these platforms. Let's take that one. And Shanika, I'm going to ask you, when I drag this red arrow, what do you think is going to happen?
I think that my character will move to the right.
Okay. Shanika, I'm going to give you control over my mouse. So I want you to come up to the class and show me how that works.
Alrighty, let's.
All right, so you grabbed the blue box in the middle, which moved you in all directions. Why don't you see what happens when you grab the red arrow?
Oh, it moves the block.
Yeah, so it only moves it horizontally. And again, at a grade appropriate level, we'll talk about horizontally often as the x-axis. So we're constrained to the x-axis. So we can talk about these concepts that you might already be discussing in your math classrooms. Great, so you've moved it into a position. I want you to hit the play button and see if you can jump on it. It spins. All right, I'm gonna take back control.
Awesome. This is great for hand-eye coordination as well, to ensure that all things
so
are.
what you'll see with younger kids, so a grade 2 student, they don't really have the fine motor skills to start. 5 minutes in, they're moving a mouse just the same as anybody else would. They acquire that skill. I mean, most will acquire that skill very quickly because they're motivated, right? They want to put the platform in exactly the right position. And because they're motivated, they'll move past the frustration of not having the physical dexterity to acquire it. So we've got a tool that can move things around. We have a tool over here called the rotate tool. So let's say I take this platform and bring it in, I can use the rotate tool. And if I grab the outside edge, I can rotate it in different directions. So we can talk about angles. Hey, what is it? Can you rotate this to a 45-degree angle? I'm going to give you control. Show me what a 45-degree angle would look like.
Okay, yeah. 45-degree angle. It's about, oh.
So again, we can talk and show angles and measurements and units in here as a layer on top of building that video game. Okay, the last thing I want to do is teach you probably the most important technology ever developed, and that is undo. So we've made some stuff and we didn't like it. Let's see, you didn't rotate that correctly. You're going to use the control key. So push control and Z at the same time, and you can go back. So you can take steps backwards, which means that you can experiment and try stuff without worrying about failure. So if you hold control and tap Z, and you can keep holding control and tapping Z back all the way to the beginning if you wanted to. So in that way, we really encourage experimentation. Move it, try it, play it. You don't like it? Undo it. So I'm going to give you a minute or two. I want you to, I'm going to take control again since you're on my screen. What I want you to do is move a couple of these platforms into your scene, and I want you to move a few of these clouds into your scene as well and see what that does. All right, so I'm going to move you to your create screen. Your screen has now gone orange, and now you're looking at your own Unity. And on my side, I can watch what everybody in the classroom is doing. So in real time, I'm watching you move your yellow platform, Shanika, and Jessica's got her first cloud going in. I like to always remind people, change a few things, push that play button, try your game. Did you make it more fun? Is it less fun? And you're always going to be iterating on your design. Awesome. So you've got some clouds putting out hearts and stars. You've got the makings of a video game now. And I can even show you, Shanika, do you want to take a look at what Jessica created? Because I think she has something really cool.
Yeah, wow, so, Jessica.
Jessica, I'm going to give you the spotlight. Oh no, you're on your own computer now. And Jessica is in the spotlight. And Shanika, you can take a look at what Jessica's doing. So I can take any one of these students, basically bring them up to the front of the classroom and showcase their work. And I could even say, Shanika, why don't you play Jessica's game? And now, Shanika, you're in control of Jessica's computer. So these are all things that we learned how to do in the classroom when we were facilitating. We'd get kids to stand up and walk over to someone's desk, try the games out. And we needed to recreate that because that was such a critical part of the way kids learn, you know, the way they inspire each other, the way that you can hear one student's question before you got to that same problem. And so you already know the answer, right? And these are all things that happen in live classrooms that, you know, we've developed UME Academy and our online virtual classroom to solve.
To learn more about UME Academy, visit www.ume.academy. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this and others that we know you'll enjoy. Do you have an idea for a STEMinar or a webinar that you would love to see NCCAP cover? Well, comment below or check out our website at www.ncafterschool.org.